Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have guests on from LaGrange Personal Aid. I have on the director, Paul Stedman. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you to talk a little bit about a program that's here in our community that is very much needed in our community and does a wonderful job. And you've been there, as I understand, for about 16 years at the helm, making sure that programs are carried out and the needs of our community are being met through LaGrange Personal Aid. First of all, tell us a little bit about Paul, if you don't mind.
Well, most of my experience has been, my working experience has been working with the adult mentally handicapped. It's running adult day centers and sheltered workshops. And then from there I kind of progressed into that was nonprofit, but progressed into other nonprofits. And that's where I came to LaGrange Personal Aid. And it's a wonderful job. I love my job every day because I get to make people's lives different. I mean, they come in with these horrible problems, big burdens that they're going to be kicked out of their house, their lights are going to be turned off. They come to us from the emergency room and need prescriptions because they have illness, pneumonia, all kinds of things. And so we see people at their worst,
Right. Okay.
which is okay because then we can make them better. And then we buy their prescriptions, we help them with their rent and utilities and things like that. So I think we make a difference every day.
Well, very good.
Which is what United Way tells us to do, because we're a United Way funded agency.
Absolutely, very good. And then you say that you're able to touch and impact lives and help an individual when they feel like they may be at their worst, and you can kind of be that ray of hope, as you like to say. Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes when people come in and they have something on their mind that they need, in talking to them, they might need something totally different than what they thought of. They might come in for help with their utility bill, and it's actually the rent that might help them a little more, or maybe some food that would free money for the utility bill, or there's all kinds of, you have to be creative every day in trying to help people with what they need.
Sounds like you have a counseling background then, Paul.
Little.
A little bit.
A little.
Absolutely.
I try.
Well, and again, I know that you all do a wonderful job. And you mentioned about being a United Way agency. I know that so many of the agencies in our community do a wonderful job of meeting the needs of individuals, and sometimes on very minimal budgetary means, and by making those things possible. Let's just go back and talk a little bit about the history of LaGrange Personal Aid, because I don't think it started out as LaGrange Personal Aid. I think it was originally called LaGrange Welfare Association. Talk a little bit about that for us.
Started in 1923, and the office, from what we can understand or figure out, because we couldn't find any files from 23 to 30. The main office was on Main Street. And we think what happened, I went back to the archives and looked on the microfiche thing, and I think they had a big fire in the building where the office was at that time, and that's where all the files went. So we started, when I first started there, they had everything on paper. In old file cabinets from the 20s, and one of them you had to put your foot on and pull
and
because the wheels didn't work very well. Okay. So that's how we were working with paper files. So we finally got them on the database, but we donated, as soon as we got everything on the database, we donated all those files to the archives. So that's all saved for history.
Very good. Talk a little bit about some of the programs. I know there are a number of programs that you all have, because we're talking about being a United Way agency. And I know that United Way likes everything to be transparent. Having served on the allocations committee myself, and now being a board member of United Way, I know that they require certain things of the agencies that they fund. And I know that you all are a clearinghouse for some of the nonprofits here in our community. Talk a little bit about that, Paul, if you don't mind.
Well, we work very closely with some of the other United Way agencies, and of course the local churches. We get calls all the time from churches and other organizations, not only referring people for help, but if we need help for someone and we can't do an entire amount of someone's bill, I have people that I can call in the community that might be able to do some of the rest. And we've worked with, let's see, I highlighted some, because when you get on a show like this, your mind just goes, so I have to have some things with
I understand.
We work with American Red Cross with Connie, and we work with disaster assistance and with our food closet, and Some other things with rent and utilities and things, replacement prescriptions. We just had a meeting the other day at United Way about after the fire, which is the packet that they put together to give people when they have had a fire, to give them all kinds of information. And that tells them what each agency does, us, Salvation Army, Red Cross. We work with community consumer credit counseling with Beth over there. And sometimes she'll be working with someone who's being hassled by creditors, and she'll call me because sometimes the mortgage company will want to do a deal with them or are willing to do a deal.
Right, okay.
And she'll say, well, they want $200, $300, $400 up front in order to do the deal. And so we'll try and help with that so that they can get out from underneath that burden that they're...
And that kind of frees up the individual to use those resources for something else, as you stated or in your conversation, maybe rent, utilities, things of that, or even food in some cases, correct?
Yeah, and prescriptions.
And prescription drugs.
Prescriptions is a big thing with people. I mean, we had someone came in the other day, and it was a cancer medication. 3 pills was $400.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, and that's a big chunk when you don't have it.
Yeah, when you don't have insurance.
Right.
And so many people don't have insurance. It's a big expense for them.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, most of them are, you know, $20, $30, $40. So we're able to help them with them. But we have to look at our resources too, because we don't have unlimited resources.
That's absolutely.
Yeah. I wish we did. But
I know. Hopefully somebody watching maybe even want to make a donation to you guys.
Yeah, if there's a billionaire out there who wants to donate to a worthy organization.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about something that is very near and dear to a lot of our perhaps viewing audience there, and that is our veterans. And I know that you all have a lot of assistance there, or have assisted a number of veterans through your organization. Talk a little bit about some of the programs that you offer the veterans.
Well, we had a board member who was a board member for about 30, 35 years. His name was Charles Maddox. And he was a wonderful man. And one of the reasons we really loved him was because they signed our paychecks every 2 weeks.
So there was a financial reason behind that.
Yeah, so we really loved him. But he was a super guy. But he died in end of 2012, and we wanted to figure out a way to honor him in some way. So I wanted to start a Veterans Assistance Program. So I sent a letter to his wife, and I told her what we were going to do, and I asked permission to use his name to do the Veterans Assistance, and she was thrilled. And the family said that would be an honor for him. I said, as long as personal aid exists, his name would be part of it and would be acknowledged as a member of our organization.
Very good.
And so it's the Charles C. Maddox Veterans Assistance Program, and we've been helping since January of 2013. As of today, we are up to 78 veterans that we've helped with various things. Could be rent, could be utilities, could be prescriptions. There was one guy who contacted us, and his paper file was in Tuskegee, and he needed his prescriptions. Well, the Veterans Administration told him that they were transferring his files from Tuskegee to Atlanta, and they were on their way, and they wouldn't help him with prescriptions until they got to Atlanta. And he said, but I need them now. And they said, well, sorry. So we were able to get his prescriptions for him.
Very good, very good. You know, so many times I think, you know, unless you have a person in the military and have been impacted by them being injured, you know, severely or mildly or whatever the case may be, I don't know that we really understand the severity of what some of our veterans go through. And I think you see that perhaps on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, you know, just that simple need of a prescription or, you know, therapy or whatever the case. I think you were sharing with me before we came on the story of one veteran, if you don't mind sharing that story again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, he's 24 years old, and he was in Iraq. He was in one of the armored vehicles, and it hit an IED and threw it upside down, and 2 or 3 of the guys were tossed out. He lost his hearing in one ear, and he, of course, has PTSD now. He goes through that every night with nightmares and things. And he told me that his girlfriend left him after a month, and he has to have a trash can next to his bed because he throws up every night because of the nightmares. So that's a pretty heavy thing to go through.
Absolutely. And kind of on your own, because it said, I think you were saying the counseling once 6 months?
Yeah, once every 6 months.
Once every 6 months? That didn't help at all.
For an hour.
For an hour. Oh, my Lord.
So it's kind of like, like a psychiatrist. All they say is, so what do you think about that?
Right. Say, wait a minute, I'm paying you for this, right? I'm paying you. All right, let's talk on a lighter note. I know that in 2006, the City of LaGrange started a program that we contribute over to LaGrange Personal Aid called Roundup. Talk about that program for us, if you don't mind.
Well, that started in 2006, as you say, and that's been a godsend. When we had Share averaged $500 or $600 a month that people would donate through their utility bills. If anyone wants to do that, they can contact the utility provider, either Diverse Power or City of LaGrange, and you can add whatever you want onto your utility bill. But that was, when we helped, say we helped with $100 each person, that was 6 people and we were done. And if we had United Way funds, separate funds to help the utilities, we could add on to that. And then we didn't have anything left. Well, when Roundup came along, that's divided between us and Community Action for Improvement,
right?
Half. And we get probably $2,000, $2,500 a month. And you can see what a big difference that's making with our utility help.
Absolutely.
It has really helped us a lot.
Well, Paul, there's so many things, and we could just talk on and on about the various programs and various things that you all are doing here in the community. But I just want to say thank you very much for your dedication to making sure that those needs in our community are being met through the LaGrange Personal Aid, or being that clearinghouse to make sure that other agencies know about that individual that you had contact with, and turn to direct them to the right individuals. So thank you very much, Paul, for your assistance and all that you do in our community.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being on the show today as well.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking with Mr. Paul Stetman from LaGrange Personal Aid, and he hung around the studio and just kept talking, and we kept talking, and unfortunately our other guest didn't show up, so Paul, guess what? You on for another 12 minutes. How about that? All right. Well, we left off talking about so many of the wonderful things that you all do here in our community, and I think we left off talking about the Roundup program and the impact that the monies make in our community. I think you were talking about almost $2,500 a month. Talk a little bit about some of the needs that you meet with those funds.
With the Roundup program?
With the Roundup, yes.
Well, the share money that we used to get, or we still get, that goes to city and Diverse Power and propane and whoever, whatever company. But when we first were going to get the Roundup funds, I said to my board, those Roundup funds come only from City of LaGrange. So to me, those funds should go back to only City of LaGrange. So we made a decision to only spend it on either city utility bills or city water bills. Okay. So the entire amount of the Roundup goes right back to the city. Right back to
that's great. That's great. Again, going back talking about making sure that the funds meet the needs of the individuals, and that's just another screening step that you all have to make sure they go back to from which they came. Correct? Absolutely. Now, let me ask you, because I know that your United Way agency. What other community support do you all receive there at your office there, Paul?
In what regard?
I think you all were telling me projects coming on. There was a company that kind of came out and did some painting.
Oh,
and
yes.
Various things
Yes, Walmart.
Yes, okay.
Walmart Distribution Center.
There you go.
They kind of adopted us a couple of years ago, and our building looked all of its age, which was built in 1940. And we still had the original doors on the building, which were very leaky. They were wood doors, and so they came out and told us they would help us out. And they sent a crew out and they replaced our doors, they painted our building, there was one gentleman who works for Walmart distribution, and he said that I noticed there was a noise outside my office window, and he started to scrape the windowsills and around the windows, and he was just cussing up a storm out there. And I went out there and I said, "Are you having a problem?" And he said, "Well," he said, "I'm having trouble getting this off here." And he said, it's really hard. He said, "When was the last time these windows were painted?" And I said, "Well, when Roosevelt was president."
Oh my Lord. So a long time.
And he said, "Well, it seems like it." But that was his job to scrape all the windows. He did a good job, though.
Oh my goodness.
Got them all done. But and then they did some stuff inside. But they call us every once in a while when they have excess stuff that they want to donate to the community. And a couple of years we had some bunch of coats that they donated, or long winter underwear, and all kinds of things that they've given us. So we thank God for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Let me just ask, Paul, because we're talking about community support. If there was someone that was watching the program now and they wanted to make a donation directly to LaGrange Personal Aid, is there an opportunity for people to do that?
Oh yes, oh yes.
How can they do it?
Because we not only we're primarily funded by United Way, but we also get funding through the local churches and through individuals. So they can send a check directly to United Way at 416 Pierce Street, LaGrange. Or they could just call me and tell me that they would like to make a donation. We get a lot of in-kind donations for our food closet, which could be food or self-care items also, because we always need soap and toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, because if people can't buy food, they can't buy those things either.
That's right, that's right. So if someone wanted to bring a donation by of that nature, you know, personal items, they can do that as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
And just tell them your address one more time. I know you gave it out just a moment ago.
416 Pierce Street. We're right off Byron Hurst, in back of Magic Touch Beauty Salon.
Okay, very good. And you were talking a moment ago about, you know, the personal aids, or if, you know, they can't buy personal aid, maybe necessarily can't buy food. I know that you all have a program called Food Safety Information. Talk a little bit about that, and especially how it relates to our elderly and also kids, if you don't mind.
Well, the food safety information, we usually, when I shop at Publix, I go out and they have this little spinner in the entryway. And I grabbed some of those brochures, and they have really good information about the temperature to keep food, to store food, you know, all that kind of stuff. How to store fish, which is you've got to be really careful about, and shellfish. So we provide that information along with the stuff at the food closet. So we put things up on the wall about it, and we have information available.
Okay. And in reference to this food closet, and I know that you all accept donations for that as well? Okay. Throughout the year?
Yes.
And so again, if someone wanted to make a donation, they could do that at any time?
We just had our letter carriers food drive this last Saturday, which is our biggest food drive of the year. And we got, we're still counting and it's still coming in, but right now it's about 13,500 pounds of food.
Whoa, okay. That's
so
awesome.
it's hopefully that'll get us through most of the year, but it's the summer months where we have difficulty with donations, because somehow people don't think people are hungry in the summer months, and they give more donations in the winter and the fall, because they're thinking about Thanksgiving and Christmas and things like that. So we'd like to encourage people to please try and give during the summer also.
During the summer as well. Because you're saying just finished up the National Letter Carriers Stamp Out Hunger, I believe it's called. So I look at your brochure here. And then of course you have the Interfaith Food Closet that provides funding or food for those that are in need as well, correct? All right, very good. Now, and I know this is something the kids don't want to hear about right now, school supplies, but you also do some school supplies, right?
We do. We get some donations in for that, and then sometimes I go out and we have extra monetary donations that come in. So I go out and purchase school supplies, and we put them together in bags with the little books and erasers and the pens and the pencils and the things that they might need, because there are some families who are just not very well off, and they don't have much, and it's a problem to have their child go to school and not have the things that the other kids have.
Absolutely.
So
Just
we
have
try
those
to
necessities,
help them
right?
with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, in a book bag and those pens and papers, those things, you know, would seem so insignificant, means a lot to one of those kids, I'm sure, or to kids that don't necessarily have those things, right?
Yeah, and it's hard enough being with your family not having a lot of money. But when you go to school and you're sitting next to someone who has all that stuff,
Yeah.
and then they make fun of you because you don't have it, it kind of puts a mark on your brain, and you feel like you're inadequate for the rest of the time you're in school. That's not right.
Kind of self-esteem deflated.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, there's so many, and I think we could probably go on and on about the various programs, but another one that I'd like to mention before we get ready to close out here is the co-administrator of Charity Tracker. Talk a little bit about that for us, Paul.
That started a couple of years ago. We used to use a different system that was based in Atlanta, and then we found that it became too complicated. So we were looking around for another system. Of course, we have our own database at Personal Aid, and we have about 12,000 files. Everything we've helped, everyone we've ever helped since 1998 is on there. But that's not accessible to the other agencies in the community. So Patty at United Way was looking at a system called Charity Tracker, and it's based in Alabama. It's an online database system, and it's accessible to anyone who has a membership, and it doesn't cost very much per month. When you think of how much a church would have for benevolence, they have a limited amount, and they want to make sure that they help as many people as they can with that.
Correct.
So what we do is we're the co-administrators with United Way, and we encourage any church, any organization that wants to be on Charity Tracker, because what we do is we share all the information of who we've helped, what we've helped them with, how much, and any other organization that's on there also puts the information on there.
Right.
So if someone comes into them and says, someone died, or I need my help with my utility bill because it's going to be shut off, then they can put their information in, their name, their address, their phone number, and it'll bring up all the information about whoever's helped them before. And sometimes it ends up that they just left my office or the Salvation Army office and said the same thing.
Right.
So, and if you don't have that, you don't know that, and you end up giving them money or helping them, and it wasn't necessary.
So a great tool to have then, so that people don't double dip.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, very good. You know, and I remember being on the United Way Allocations Committee, and Powell, rather.
Yes, Chris,
was telling me about it as well. And so that is a very good, because, you know, unfortunately we do see that even at City Hall sometimes. People will come through, you know, they need assistance, you know, and, you know, we tell them about the various programs in the communities and say, well, I've been over to such and such. And then when we dig a little bit deeper in, we find out that they've been to this agency, that agency, you know, multiple agencies, like you stated, with the same story there.
Right, and if you don't have an online database where you can check, then it's just a matter of calling everybody.
That's right, absolutely.
And sometimes you
How
can't
long
get
did
them on
that
the
take?
phone,
That's
and the person's
right.
sitting in front of you.
Right.
And what are you going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, as we get ready to close out, I think you were telling me a little bit before we came back on, you know, not only do you all reach out and help people in the community, but sometimes other agencies call on you, like the West Georgia Health, to help provide medical assistance to families. Talk about that for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll get a call sometimes, like from Pam Norrin Kidd, who's a social worker, caseworker over at the hospital, and she'll have someone, she's in their house, and they'll need a bath chair or special stockings for someone with diabetes who's had trouble with their legs, or a walker or a wheelchair or something like that, and she'll ask if we can get them. So we have funds that we can help with that. I know the other day she called and she needed a bath chair for someone, and she had checked on a database, an online site, and found how much it was going to be, and so I went on there and ordered it for her. Okay. So, yeah, we're very glad to be able to get that stuff.
Well, very good. There again, you know, Paul, there's so many things that this agency does in our community, and I left off by thanking you a moment ago. I want to just reiterate that again. Thank you very much for coming on the show today and filling in and filling this other part of the segment for me as well.
You.
So, Paul, I wish you all the very best, and as we move forward throughout this year, hopefully those donations of canned goods and other supplies that you all need will just continue to come in. And again, if somebody wanted to donate, give them your contact information one more time, okay, if you don't mind.
We're at 416 Pierce Street in LaGrange, just off Byronhurst.
Okay.
And the phone number is 706-882-9291.
Okay. Well, Paul, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been from the LaGrange Personal Aid, the Executive Director, Paul Stedman, as he talked about the numerous programs that they have and offer the community residents here in the City of LaGrange and surrounding area. Ladies and gentlemen, by all means, if you'd like to make canned donations, give them a call or stop by his office. I'm sure they will greatly appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed these interviews today. And as always, I want to invite you back for more of City Week.